Forehead represents esteem. Esteem is a perceived quality of respectability that affects the body's standing. It is respect of the body's integrity to moral values. From Revelation 14:9, and the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, which means power. From Ezekiel 3:9, As an adamant harder than flint, or dogma, have I made thy forehead. Tail represents subversion. It is nothing but skin and bone, and it draws flies. From Isaiah 9:14, Therefore the Lord will cut off from Israel head and tail, branch and rush, in one day. The ancient and honorable, he is the head, and the prophet that teacheth lies, he is the tail. From Revelation 12:4, And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. Foreskin represents promiscuity. It is unrestrained integrity, or loose skin. The act of circumcising somebody was never meant to be taken literally. It is symbolic. From Colossians 2:11, In whom also ye are circumcised with the circumcision made without hands or powers, in putting off the body of the sins of the flesh by the circumcision of Christ. From Exodus 4:25, Then Zipporah took a sharp stone or doctrine, and cut off the foreskin or promiscuity of her son, and cast it at his feet or dominion, and said, Surely a bloody or marled husband art thou to me. Genesis 17:11, And ye shall circumcise the flesh, or ethics, of your foreskin, or promiscuity, and it shall be a token of the covenant betwixt me and you. From Romans 2:25, For circumcision verily profiteth, if thou keepest the law, but if thou be made a breaker of the law, thy circumcision is made uncircumcision. From Deuteronomy 10:16, Circumcise therefore the foreskin of your heart or will, and be no more stiff-necked or constrained loyalty. From Joshua 5:2, At that time the Lord said unto Joshua, Make thee sharp knives, and circumcise again the children of Israel the second time. So here we see clearly that it is being symbolic, not literal. And Joshua made him sharp knives, and circumcised the children of Israel at the hill, which means city, of the foreskins, which means promiscuities. Naked represents to bear sin. From Habakkuk 2:15, Woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, that putteth thy bottle to him, and maketh him drunken also, that thou mayest look on their nakedness. From Leviticus 20:20, He has uncovered his uncle's nakedness, they shall bear their sin. Garments represent accounts. From Zechariah 3:3, Take away the filthy garments from him. And to him he said, Look, I have caused your iniquity to pass from you, and I will clothe you with a change of garment. From Psalms 109:18, As he clothed himself with cursing like as with his garment, so let it come into his bowels like water, and like oil into his bones. Linen represents prophecy, or prophetic characteristics. Linen garments represents accounts of prophesying. People who minister wear linen only. Linen is a textile made from the fibers of the flax plant, flax meaning prophet. It is valued for its exceptional coolness and freshness in hot weather. Sackcloth represents lamentation. Mourning characteristics. Sackcloth garments represent accounts of lamentation. Sackcloth is rough textile made of either camel's hair, goat hair, hemp, cotton, or flax. From Esther 4:3, There was great mourning among the Jews, and fasting and weeping and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes, which means shame. Wool represents sanctification. It has purifying characteristics. Remember that white represents purity. Wool garments represent accounts of sanctification. Sanctification is the act or process of acquiring sanctity, of being made or becoming holy. Wool causeth sweat, or removal of sad, salty soul. Deuteronomy 22:8. Thou shalt not put on a garment mixed with wool and linen together. Ezekiel 44:17. And it shall come to pass that when they enter in at the gates of the inner court, they shall be clothed with linen garments, and no wool shall come upon them, whilst they minister in the gates of the inner court, and within. They shall have linen bonnets upon their heads, and shall have linen breeches upon their loins. They shall not girt themselves with anything that causeth sweat, which means sad soul, or salty water. Hosea 2:9. Therefore will I return and take away my corn in the time thereof, and my wine in the season thereof. I will recover my wool and my flax given to cover her nakedness. Proverbs 31:12. She will do him good and not harm all the days of her life. She seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands. A girdle represents readiness. A girdle is used to hold a person's garments close to their body to prevent them from being snagged on any branches or thorns. From Isaiah 11:5. And righteousness shall be the girdle or readiness of his loins or labors. From Jeremiah 13:2. So I got a girdle according to the word of the Lord, and put it on my loins. From Isaiah 3:24. And it shall come to pass that instead of a sweet smell there shall be a stink, and instead of a girdle a rent. A breastplate represents dedicated worship, as it is metal applied to the breast, and the breast represents worship. Metal represents understanding. Exodus 28:29. And Aaron shall bear the names of the children of Israel in the breastplate of judgment upon his heart, when he goeth in unto the holy place, for a memorial before the Lord continually. From 1 Thessalonians 5:8. But let us who are of the day be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for a helmet the hope of salvation. Helmet represents dedicated authority. From Ephesians 6:17. Take the helmet of salvation, which means helmet of gold. From 1 Samuel 17:5. And he had a helmet of brass, or faith, upon his head, or authority. Shoes represent dedicated dominion. From Ephesians 6:15. And your feet, or dominion, shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. From Revelation 1:15. And his, or Jesus' feet, or dominion, were like unto fine brass, or faith, as if they had been burned in a furnace, or trial, and his voice as the sound of many waters, or souls. Shield represents defensive power. It is made of metal, which represents understanding, and it is held in the hands, or the powers of a person, or kingdom. From Ephesians 6:16. Take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows or talebearers of the evil one. A sword represents offensive power. It is understanding or metal that is held in the hands or powers of a person, used to cut through the flesh or ethics of others. From Ephesians 6:17. And the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Psalms 55:21. The words of his mouth or mind were smoother than butter, but woe was in his heart or will. His words were softer than oil or grace, yet were they drawn swords. From Proverbs 25:18. A man that beareth false witness against his neighbor is a mole. Mole is just a hammer, and a sword, and a sharp arrow. To recap, the three noble metals represent the three highest forms of understanding that can be achieved. Copper represents an understanding of God's instructions, which will lead a person to faith. Silver represents the understanding that redemption is possible and will lead a person to hope. Gold represents an understanding of salvation and will lead a person to charity. God's kingdom is a kingdom made of gold. It is a kingdom made of charity. This is what salvation is. It is charity. If we were all charitable, we would have a perfect world. We would be in heaven.